Hey, welcome back, coaches, athletes, and sports fans. Coach Michael Fields here. As always, I ask you if you want to follow me on Instagram, Coach Michael Fields, Twitter, Michael K. Fields, and you can email me at coachmichaelfields@gmail.com. Finishing up today with our last episode on Coaching 101. And today we're going to talk operations. And so I kind of boiled it down to some of the key things about operating as a coach and the operations that we need to take into mind and really focus on. So we're going to talk about plans, and for this is part of that management piece as well. But for this, I'm talking those day-to-day plans, having a practice plan, making sure that we're putting together all the things we're going to work on. That way, as a coach, you don't sit there and you look down, you still got a half an hour and nothing left to do because you can't think of it. Always have a practice plan. I do this at the youth level, I do this at the middle school, high school level as well. I'm not involved in all the practice planning at the high school, but I always have a plan of, I know I'm going to be working with this certain group today, as an assistant coach, with my position. And I know I want to work on these skills, so these are the drills that I want to do to make sure I'm getting those skills built for my players. For softball, same thing, have your warm up routine. I use kind of a universal dynamic warm up team, big believer in dynamic warm ups. Get them moving, get the temperature going in those muscle groups, get the blood moving, get the fluids built in there so that they're not, going to hurt themselves during practice. So, have that plan. Always start with your warm ups. Have your EDDs, those everyday drills for whatever sport it is. In basketball, the same thing. I go from warm ups right into dribble drills, right into some, passing drills. Then we get into defense, and then we get into shooting, then we get into team. So have those plans every day. I do that at every level, youth, middle school, high school. Do it for every practice. I have a habit of kind of keeping old practice plans. As a volunteer coach, there are times where my day gets away from me and I don't have a chance to make a new plan, so I grab something maybe we used the week before, then I'll just kind of handwrite. I try to print mine. My handwriting is not the best, so I'll print them out and I keep those in a drawer. And then I pull one out and I'll kind of scratch off, something I want to take out that we did that day and add in that next day to kind of keep your time well spent when you're in practice and to not have to type up a new one every time. Same thing with games. Have the game plan. I don't mean game plan like the strategy. I mean the operational piece. Kind of tying into logistics. What time do they need to arrive, right? But then also, substitutions and positions, youth level. Even little league baseball. I write out my whole script. I script my entire game and plan it for 6, 7 innings. If we only get to inning 5, that's okay. I'm a big a big believer. In the athlete development model, and so I try to make sure every kid's getting a chance to play. Every kid's getting a bat. So for little league, for instance, if a kid was in the bottom half in the lineup one game, the next game I'm going to put them in the top half so they get more ABs in that next game. Same thing when it comes to fielding positions. I'm going to script it out. Okay, first inning, this kid's playing first base, this one's playing second, short, etc. And then, that might give them 2 innings there, then I move them somewhere else. Young kids, I make sure each kid, even that kid that, might not be the best player, might not stick with the sport, to make them love it a little bit, right? Because I'm about fundamentals, making sure it's fun and they're building fundamentals. I make sure that kid that maybe is probably not going to stick with it for a few years gets that inning, maybe 2 innings in the dirt when I'm coaching baseball, and softball as well. For other sports, the same thing, making sure that kid that's kind of on that cusp, they get that series or two in that game, or they get that, ending 2 minutes of a quarter, whatever it may be. Just make sure that you have a plan to play your players as well. Okay, so back to logistics. We also want to make sure that we're getting people there on time, right? I'm very fortunate. The high school program I'm at, we've got a coach that's really good at putting together the plan. If we're on a bus ride for 4 hours, if we're on a home game, on what time guys need to be where, when we're going to start taping them, when they need to gear up, when we need to get special teams out for indie practice, when we get out on the bus rides. He's really good at scripting out. We're going to leave at this time, stop here to eat, stop here to do a walkthrough or whatever, depending on the length of the trip. And so that's really important. When it comes to youth or travel teams, make sure you're telling your players and your parents what time you expect them at the field or the court. That way you can make sure you properly warm them up, go through your pregame stuff, maybe watch the opponent, in like a softball or basketball tournament for a weekend long. Go watch a game. See that person you might be playing in that next game, so that way you can get an idea of how you're going to plan for that game. Okay, so we just want to make sure we're doing these things, right? So for logistics, what gym are we at? What field are we on? Which court number are we on? Which field? Softball, baseball tournaments. You got 8 fields at a facility. We're at this field. We're going to meet at this time. We're going to meet behind the third base side. We're at this court. We're going to meet at this door. Get those logistics out, and that's for the whole season, right? Even for practices, for fundraising events and other group activities, we got to be good at logistics. We have to plan it out. I do it by working backwards. Okay, this is game time, or this is the game day. Then work backwards on those events. So make sure you have a plan for each of those things, and make sure that we're communicating those logistics, right? Community and partnerships. This is a big one for especially high school and travel teams, even little leagues and rec leagues, to get sponsorships. Make sure that you're operating in a way that you're building that rapport. Big thing I like to do if I have a sponsor, and I'm going to do a team dinner, we're going to go eat at that sponsor's restaurant. If we're going to, if I need some printing done and I got the copy center, the town, little copy center in town to sponsor me, I'm going to go make my copies there. So make sure we're building those community partnerships. That's part of the operations as a coach that keeps that sponsor for that next year, that keeps that community partnership for that next season, so that you can continue to have that support. We got to have support from our communities in order to be successful in sports. We're not just building athletes, we're building young citizens as well. So we need to build those partnerships. Last piece is development, and I put this under operations because this is kind of the preseason, postseason, right? I had somebody quote me or send me a quote the other day. Athletes get better in the preseason, teams get better during the season. I love that. I'm a big believer in multi-sports, so I encourage athletes to play multiple sports. That's part of their development. But then also, how are we going to do our preseason? If we get, for travel basketball, for AAU basketball, we get about a month to 6 weeks before we start playing games. So I start out with open gyms for like 2 weeks, and then we kind of pick the team or decide if we're keeping everybody or making cuts or whatever that may be. And then we're going to start working as a team. So scheduling that out and then having that full development of, okay, by this week we should be on this skill. By this week we should be implementing this new scheme, whatever that may be. So working on individual development as well as team development. We want to make sure we're always working on developing our young people, our young athletes, as students, as athletes, and everything in between. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. I really kind of enjoyed doing this Coaching 101 series. If you've got an idea for something, please email me. Again, that's Coach Michael Fields at Gmail. I'm on Twitter at Michael K. Fields, Instagram Coach Michael Fields, or like, comment, and share this video below. Hoping to build more of these videos for everybody. Thanks. Have a good day.